Good morning, Summa scholars. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is May the 6th during the season of Christmastide. Joe, how you doing?
Eastertide?
Oh, it's Christmas. Okay, here's why I said Christmastide. I've got a story to tell right off the bat. I learned a lesson. I had a teacher today. You know, you always look for teachers in life, you know? And God provides teachers all the time. Well, we're sitting here. This just happened like an hour or two ago. We're sitting in the shop, and in comes the prophet Randy. Randy, about this big. He looked like he might be in his 30s, but he was, I don't know if he's Down syndrome or what, but he wanders in because Bob, the guy who did the mural, is playing music. And Randy's in there with his mom, and I don't know what they're doing, but Randy just wanders in. And we all realize somebody's just walked in, and that he's like assessing his environment. And Elias, of course, the gentleman, gets up and brings a chair over so that Randy can sit down. And Randy's there, like watching everything. And then Bob finishes the song, and Randy goes, "Thank you. That was very good." "You're welcome." And we're all kind of watching Randy to see what he's going to do. And then Mom comes in, and she's watching too. She says, "Beautiful," and everybody's clapping, and we're, "Hi," and this, and Randy, and we do that. And then Mom's like, "Okay, we got to go. It's time to leave." And Randy's a little scared of the animals that are up on the walls and stuff. And Mom's like, "They're not going to come down. They're not going to get you." But then Randy comes over to Bob. This is a beautiful. You don't have to know who Bob is, guys. Just picture the environment. He goes over to Bob, and he reaches around him, and he goes, "Thank you for that music. I love you." And Bob goes, "You're welcome." And then Randy grabs his nose, grabs Bob's nose, and goes, "Beep, beep." "Thank you." And Bob leans back and says, "I haven't had my nose tweaked in decades, probably." And then Randy goes over to each person. "Thank you, love you." And Mom's like, "You don't tell grown men that you love them." And everybody said, "We love Randy." And then he grabs one guy's hand and he goes, "Bebop-a-loo bop. She my baby." Beep. And then he goes over to Elias, and I can't remember. Oh, and then he says something to him. And then as he's leaving, he looks at all of us very formally, and he goes, "Merry Christmas."
Well, sure.
And we all said, "Merry Christmas, Randy. Happy New Year,"
Yeah.
And he takes off. So I was Randied into Christmas season. But when he left, I told Adam, that's my new teacher. When I can get to the level that I can go in and tweak a grown man's nose and go boop and somehow stick the landing,
Bro.
Somehow it comes. I know it's a high bar. It's a high bar because
don't ever try it on me.
Why would I do it on you?
I'm just saying, don't do it.
But you get the idea. I'm talking spiritually. I'm not talking. This is a metaphor. That Randy just had this open-heartedness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you look for. Randy had a heart full of love.
Yeah.
No one perceived Randy as a threat.
Of course not.
And it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from Randy today. I'll be meditating on that for a while. But it is in Randy world Christmas season. But in this world, it is Eastertide. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Did we ever get to how are you doing, Joe?
No.
Do we want to? How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good day.
It is a good day.
Well, pretty good things.
We both had a certain flourishing today, a certain release, a certain openness. We can't tell you all these things because, guys, it's none of your business, frankly. But we have a life beyond the Daily Summa. That's what's so strange about this Beaver Galleon. We set sail every day. It's like eating, unless it's Lent and you're fasting, which is beautiful. But you have to kind of do it every day. Cook, clean, every day. That's what's kind of beautiful about the Daf Yomi idea, which turned into Daily Summa idea. It's that every day, except the octaves, of course, Feast of St. Joseph, whatever. But every day we're here. Now, you guys have to understand, when the camera turns on, it's good morning, Summa scholars. Welcome. But right before that, it's real life. Real life keeps rolling. And the past few Daily Summas, past few weeks maybe, it's been rough sailing in the...
Yeah, they just weren't with us in the other weeks because we weren't.
That's right. One
Gallon
of the weeks...
was having shore leave,
Exactly. Well, yeah. We never really hit shore, but we had leave.
Oh,
had
yeah, sure we did.
floated.
We arrived on an island full of cannibals. It was crazy.
Okay, we can have little islands. You're
Yeah.
right. We can have little islands.
Yeah.
But we never get to the forest that all the
No.
young... And that even makes them disbelieve more when they hit land and there's no trees and stuff, or maybe a couple palm trees.
A few palm trees, yeah.
Yeah, which
Big
aren't
deal.
really that satisfying to chew on. But anyway, guys, we have real life. And sometimes it's trying. It's difficult to pack everything up, come over to do the Daily Summa. We got stuff going on. We can't do it in the morning at the normal place. So, but today is a good day. And excited to hit question 15, a whole new question.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. The subject is just ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling this is going to be interesting, challenging, perhaps.
Perhaps. You have no idea.
Well, we won't tell them. But yeah, so let's just hit into it, and then if something else comes up, we'll go. We're going to try to make this a short page. So let's get to it. Question 15 of where we're in part 1, prima pars. And the subject is ideas. Let's go read the intro. Let's do it, guys. Let's set sail. Let's get these the mainsails full of wind and get blowing on this thing. After considering the knowledge of God, it remains to consider ideas. And about this, there are 3 points of inquiry. Number 1, whether there are ideas. That's an interesting idea. 2, whether there are many or only one. Whether there are many ideas or only one. 3, whether there are ideas of all things known by God. This is just crazy sauce. Let's see. Let's dig in. Article 1, whether there are ideas. Larry up on deck. It seems that there are no ideas, which itself is an idea, I think.
Probably.
So Larry might want to check himself. For Dionysius says that God does not know things by ideas, but ideas are for nothing else except that things may be known through them. Therefore, there are no ideas. Ideas are a sort of middle ground, what's the word I'm looking for? An interface between substances. One substance, another substance, how do they come together? Through ideas, which is interesting because the logos, the divine logos, you could connect that logos with mind and idea. Bye. Mind is the actual substance, and the idea would be something moving between two substances. All right, objection 2 from Ralph. Further, God knows all things in himself, as has already been said, question 14, article 5, but he does not know himself through an idea, neither therefore other things. We got another little silverware drop.
Yeah.
We don't care. Objection 3, Shimon. Further, an idea is considered to be the principle of knowledge and action. But the divine essence is a sufficient principle of knowing and affecting all things. It is not, therefore, necessary to suppose ideas. That'll be interesting, how Thomas is going to get to that one. On the contrary, Augustine says, such is the power inherent in ideas that no one can be wise unless they are understood. I'm supposing that the they refers to ideas. No one can be wise unless the ideas are understood. Every time I hear stuff like this, I try to juxtapose it in my mind real quick to the Hebraic ideas of those words. Hachmut, Bina, Das. Hachmut is wisdom, Bina, understanding, Das, knowledge. Knowledge, as we've said before, is not data points, but knowledge is a deeper kind of experiential knowledge, because that's the word da'at or da'as is used in scripture for Adam knew his wife Eve. Understanding is particular bits of knowledge that are discursively arrived at, and then wisdom is a full glance over the whole big picture. But I'm wondering if Thomas, and I'm always wondering how Thomas would understand those ways of understanding, Hachmut being a das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and if he's using those terms in the same way. So I'm always kind of trying to roll that around in my mind. But the power inherent in ideas that no one can be wise, Hachmut, unless the ideas are Bina. So what is he going to say about the idea in particular? The idea must be, if you're feeling yourself way through the room from that image I gave before, where you flip the light on, you see the big picture of the room, and that's like Hachmut or wisdom. And then understanding is working your way through the room and feeling each individual thing. It seems to be he's saying that the idea is a middleman between the substance of the thing that you're interacting with and your understanding. But let's go further and see. I answer that it is necessary to suppose ideas in the divine mind. For the Greek word idea is in Latin forma. Hence, by ideas are understood the forms of things existing apart from the things themselves. The form is going to be like horsiness, and the thing itself seems to be the suppositum, or the each individual thing. Now, the form of anything existing apart from the thing itself can be for one of two ends, either to be the type of that of which is called the form, or to be the principle of the knowledge of that thing, inasmuch as the form of things knowable are said to be in him who knows them. So if I know something, I see the horse. Horsiness has now entered into me, as we said in a previous article, and imprinted itself on me. We use the metaphor of walking into a room and seeing people in the back doing some deal, and you immediately have that impressed upon your mind. So the form is impressed upon you, but only as an idea. It's not, or like if you look at a rock, you don't suddenly have a rock in your head, the form of rockiness in your head, but you have an impression of the idea of rockiness. In either case, we must suppose ideas, as is clear for the following reason. In all things not generated by chance, the form must be the end or the goal of any generation whatsoever. But an agent does not act on account of the form, except insofar as the likeness of the form is in the agent, as may happen in two ways. For in some agents, the form of the thing to be made pre-exists according to its natural being, as in those that act by their nature. As a man generates a man, or fire generates fire. Forgive me, guys. I noticed I watched the other one when John and Kevin were here, just to see what it was like having John and Kevin, and I noticed my golem coughing all the time. I'm at the end of this. I'm supposing. What do you call it when there's pollen reaction?
Allergies?
An allergy. I think I have it because last year it happened too. I mean, it could be something else. I have no definitive proof, but it happened this time last year also. So forgive me, I'm at the tail end of it, real life, blah, blah, blah. Fire generates fire. Whereas in other agents, the form of the thing to be made pre-exists according to the intelligible being, as in those that act by the intellect, and thus the likeness of a house pre-exists in the mind of the builder.
Turning of the page.
Turning of the Page is sponsored by CraigKinsey.locals.com. Please go to CraigKinsey.locals.com. Check it out. Sign up. You don't have to pay for it yet. And I put videos up, and you get to chat and blah, blah, blah.
But if you give us money, we'll keep doing it.
If you give us money, we will keep doing it. We are talking about, we'll reassess in August if we're going to continue to do this. Because it's a lot of work, and, we can't just keep doing it without the beavers getting some kind of recompense. They got to restock the boat, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And this may be called the idea of the house, since the builder intends to build his house like to the form conceived in his mind. If Michelangelo conceives of the statue of David, that's not coming to him from the outside and impressing upon him a form. He is conceiving of it from within himself and gets the idea of the statue of David. And then he interacts that in the outward world. As then, the world was not made by chance, but by God acting by his intellect, as will appear later in question 46. Oh, Thomas, you're so smart.
That shot.
And there must exist in the divine mind a form to the likeness of which the world was made. And in this, the notion of an idea consists. Interesting. So you have a Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. You have a perfect idea of the world. And then God allows us to participate with him in the creation of this world. And of course, it's not going to go as well as God's original idea or conception in Gan Eden, or the Garden of Eden. But of course, we all know that there's a deeper purpose for that in the life of Christ and divinization, but you get the idea. There is a original idea of Earth, and we are way not there. All you have to do is go down to Kroger and watch all the zombies shamble through, getting their tubs of sugar and lard. It would be great if they got lard. They don't. They get tubs of sugar and seed oils. But anyway, the world is not going just as the ideal of God, but that is so that we can cooperate with him in the creation of humanity.
Poppy says, "You're my Garden of Eden."
Poppy, can't wait to see you again, buddy. Oh, what a man, that guy.
What a man.
All-star. Like if he just did one of the things he does, oh, he just does real estate. Oh, that's awesome. It's impressive. Or, oh, he's just a dance instructor. You know, oh, he just counsels young men on how to be a man, you know. Oh, he just brings in beautiful drinks and shares them with the table. If he just did one of those things,
yeah,
awesome. But good to see you, Poppy.
Flag did you put me? Earlier today, I was sitting at the lounge. He draped me in a flag.
What kind?
Can't remember which country it was.
From downstairs?
Bolivia? No, it's Colombia. Colombia.
Ooh.
I don't know what that means.
Who knows?
I'm not caught up on my inter-Hispanic racism, so I don't know which is good and which is bad.
Gotta buckle down. Gotta buckle down.
I don't know which one it is.
So the let's just pause here for the idea, the concept, the idea, if we're talking about ideas, of the rabbinical understanding of cooperation with God for the creation of Olam Haba. So why is the world as it is? Here's what the rabbis say. I got this from Yitzhak Bridovitz. Let's suppose you're having a birthday party for your child. At the birthday party, you're going to have a birthday cake. You have some options for the birthday cake. One, you can either go to a what? What did he say?
He said it was Mexico, and he said you just lost all of your Colombian fans.
Oh, it's because it was Cinco de Mayo. I mean,
not today.
Yesterday. Well, penumbra. It was the penumbra of Cinco de Mayo. It's funny, my relationship to Mexico, because I've lived most of my life in Houston, right? Mm-hmm. So I went into Chesterton's yesterday, and I was like, hey, guys, Cinco de Mayo. Crickets.
Yeah.
I mean, like, in Houston, even if it's a bunch of white guys, it's freaking Cinco de Mayo, you know? It's time to, like, have a little celebration. You've got a bunch of Mexican friends. You're happy for, you know, and it's a reason to celebrate. There's bands.
I don't even know why.
There's shows for Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo is. I don't even know.
We'll ask Poppy. It was a particular battle that was won.
Does Poppy know? Poppy's Peruvian.
Sure. Yeah, but you know, I'm white. Everybody in Texas, you kind of hear what the Cinco de Mayo thing is, but I'm blanking on the.
It would not surprise me if he had no idea.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
Poppy, let me know if you know.
But you know who might know? Josiah.
Josiah probably knows. Yeah.
Okay, so back to the cake. Since we were listening to cake on the way up here. You have options on making this cake. Now remember, we're talking about God creating the world. Really, God creating humanity. And remember what humanity is. Humanity is a work in progress, folks. Humanity is under construction. The ideal is the risen Mashiach, the risen Christ. And we are all going to be united to him. He is the means by which we will be plugged into the divinity and divinized. So this project is far from over.
Ah.
What?
They beat the French.
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to be embarrassed. There was a battle with the French.
Yeah, sure.
No, I'm serious.
Sure, buddy.
No, I'm
Yeah,
dead
all
serious.
right. Yeah, all right.
I should have said it. You're such a doubter. People think that it's
Wasn't a big battle, he
Mexican
said.
independence, but it's not. It was a particular battle that was decisive in Mexican history. So anyway, I can't get through this cake thing, and it's important.
I'm sorry.
I lost where I was at with. We're creating humanity with God, and so we're all part of this interaction. There are options you have in making a birthday cake for your child's party. You can go to a high-end cake maker who will make the cake according to precise details that you've given them, and they make a beautiful, beautiful cake that's very expensive. Or you can go to Kroger and get a pre-made cake, and maybe they just squeeze happy birthday Bobby on it, and that's a pretty good cake. Or you can make the cake yourself, or you can make the cake with your child. And if you make the cake with your child, it's going to be messy and not be perfect, and your kitchen's going to be destroyed. There'll be flour everywhere. You have sticky sugar on their hands. You'll have to clean their hair of icing afterwards. But what you have is a cake that you and your child have made together. And then when you consume it, you are consuming that energy and life of you and your child's laughter and jokes and working together to make this thing. So God, so say the rabbis, in his fatherly love, decided instead of just, well, he didn't decide, it is how he is. I speak as a man. He didn't decide. This is how he is. This is the deepest, truest nature of love. The desire is that we should share in the making of this cake, even though it won't turn out as perfectly as the idea. There must exist in the divine mind a form of the likeness of which the world was made. And in this notion of an idea consists. God has an original idea that would be more perfect than this world. But this world, on one level, is less perfect, like that birthday cake that you and your child made. But God is not concerned about the lowest level. He's concerned about the ultimate telos, which is loving union with him. And love can only be enacted in choice and in free self-giving and consent. So for the cake to be as good as it can possibly be on this upper level, it has to be not so good on this lower level of what in this world we call perfection. So it is through this imperfection that the higher level of perfection comes. As scripture says, cursed is anyone who hangs on a tree. And Mashiach was hung on a tree. That curse is transformed into a higher blessing. Such is the wisdom and knowledge of God. As Paul said, who can conceive of the wisdom and knowledge of God? If the people of this world had known, they would have never crucified the Lord of glory. Because our knowledge works on this lower level, we see perfection and goodness in a worldly way. And it's only the saints and those who spend their time meditating on what we're doing here in silence, prayer, flight from worldliness, and let the Holy Spirit turn them into that meek and tender dove under the staircase, full of the Holy Spirit, that you can begin to have your mind transformed and not look at the world in a worldly way. So even though this cake called humanity is destroyed the kitchen, wompy and not straight, imperfect icing, that's not the end goal. The end goal is the love relationship of consuming it with the Father, which will happen at the end when we consume Mashiach. That's why there's consuming food at the Mass. This all is semiotic lessons that are trying to teach you something, and you can't have the flash of insight of it except through years of meditation. It's like staring at your beloved's hands. It's not something I can teach you and then you go, oh, and now you're enlightened. You have to meditate on these things over and over a day. You'll forget it. Then you come back and go, oh yeah, and then you'll forget it. And then it becomes more solid in your mind, just like playing guitar. Then you begin to play life better, just like a guitarist can play guitar better. through submitting himself to the strictures of metronomes, treble clefs, bass clefs, timing, rules, listening to the other players. All of those things figure in. And then suddenly a new level of music is produced when each guy is not just playing his own song by himself together in a room, but you're actually playing a song as a band. And what lifts, it's no longer the band, but the band elevates themselves to a song.
By the way,
Yeah.
we got the whole gang here. We got Poppy in the chat. Obviously, we knew that. Steve's here.
Steve.
He said he loved the jacket.
It was given to me by Joe because it was cold. Thank you.
And Haley's here.
Haley, always the stalwart.
Stalwart indeed.
Okay, reply to objection 1. God does not understand things according to an idea existing outside himself. Of course. Where would that idea come from? Thus, Aristotle rejects the opinion of Plato, who held that ideas exist of themselves and not in the intellect. And there's so much that could be said about that regarding the whole VR thing. We are in the mind of God right now. We are in the divine logos, everywhere present and filling all things, but not in the way you think, according to my hypothesis, which I think is true, but we'll see. And these ideas aren't floating out somewhere else. They can't not be disconnected from the logos. And the logos, Plato didn't know this, but the logos is actually the second person of the eternal divine Trinity, one in essence with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Reply to objection 2. Although God knows himself and all else by his own essence, yet his essence is the operative principle of all things, except of himself. It has therefore the nature of an idea with respect to other things. Remember, we need to always toggle back from the divine perspective and human perspective, though not with respect to himself. Reply to objection 3. God is the similitude of all things according to his essence. Therefore, an idea in God is identical with his essence. Think of those Russian dolls, the tchotchke doll. What are they called? They're not tchotchkes. They're
nesting dolls?
Yeah, there's
a word. I don't know what it is though.
The metaphor lips, but everything moves and moves and moves deeper, deeper, deeper into the final just essence of God. Or you can go the other direction. The essence of God is being manifested slowly outward in varying degrees, or what the rabbis call sparks. Divine sparks are flying forth from the divine essence. These sparks are reflections of, and that's a mixed metaphor, but you have to use mixed metaphors to understand these things too. There's too much going on. These sparks are flying forth, and they are actually part of the divine essence, or manifestations of the divine essence of what God truly is, and further and further and further away. And we can, God's given us an intellect such that we can trace the breadcrumbs back. That's what happens to the saints when they have an ecstasy. They've been meditating on these things for so long, and they're just out in the field one day praying, or they could be sitting on their porch, and then all of a sudden the whole thing hits in a sudden rush of insight that can last a split second or 8 seconds or however long, and they are pulled up into the whole movement of everything and what it signifies, which is ineffable and beyond words. May we all travel that direction, guys. That's what's at stake. You can have it in this life, not just the next life, but you've got to gradually break away from your distractions and enter deeper and deeper into prayer. Whether ideas are many, Article 2, whether ideas are many. Objection 1 from Larry. It seems that ideas are not many. For an idea in God is his essence, but God's essence is one only. Therefore, there is only one idea. This also, I'm sure Kreeft, I didn't read Kreeft's response to this in the Summa of the Summa, but he probably, I'll go check, probably, and he'll probably say something about the fact that it makes logical sense that there should only be one idea, but you have to always mitigate your logical understanding with hard, crass reality. And in reality, we experience numerous ideas. Now, how do those numerous ideas relate to the one knowledge of God? Thomas is probably going to say that it's in his essence, but let's see what Thomas says in the reply. Well, that'll be tomorrow. But further, as the idea is the principle of knowing and operating, so are art and wisdom the principle. But in God there are not several arts or wisdoms, therefore in him there is no plurality of ideas. Objection 3, further, if it be said that ideas are multiplied according to their relations to different creatures, it may be argued on the contrary, that the plurality of ideas is eternal. If then ideas are many, but creatures temporal, then the temporal must be the cause of the eternal. Boy, that's twisted. All right, objection 4. Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry, Reuben. Reuben says further, these relations are either real in creatures only or in God also. If in creatures only, since creatures are not from eternity, the plurality of ideas cannot be from eternity. If ideas are multiplied only according to these relations, but if they are real in God, it follows that there is a real plurality in God other than the plurality of persons. And this is against the teaching of Damascene, who says, in God all things are one, except in generability, generation, and procession. Ideas, therefore, are not many. Woo! That's going into deep stuff. The generation and the procession, because we talk about the eternal procession of the Son from the Father. The Son is eternally processing from the Father. Okay, guys, we're going to have to get into the meat of this tomorrow, and we're trying to get out of here. We have limited time. On the contrary, Augustine says ideas are certain principal forms or permanent and immutable types of things, they themselves not being formed. Thus, they are eternal and existing always in the same manner as being contained in the divine intelligence. Whilst, however, they themselves neither come into being nor decay. Yet we say that in accordance with them, everything is formed that can rise or decay, and all that actually does so. We'll hit it up more tomorrow, guys. Remember, all of this is straw. We meditate on it, and then we go deeper into prayer. Go and do thou likewise. Have a good day, people. Poppy, Steve, and Haley, and everybody else. Bye, guys.
No one else.
Well, there'll be other people later. Adios. Happy 6 de Mayo. Voilà, monsieur.